lesson 2 of the app design unit. Why do we use apps? This lesson will go over a little bit about users of apps, and the main intention of this module is for you to identify and examine what users need from apps. So by the end of this module, you should be able to identify a need and a want and define what those are and examine the needs and wants of particular users. So let's recap from the last module. Why do people create apps? One of the reasons is entertainment. So you might create an app to entertain people. So it might have videos, or it might be a game that people interact with so that they can entertain themselves and keep themselves occupied. You might create an app for communication. So when you're creating an app for communication, you are enabling the user of that app to contact or share information with somebody else. You might create an app for productivity. So an app for productivity is something that a user can use to make it easier for them to work. For example, you have Microsoft Word, which makes it easier for users to type and create Word documents, or word processing as it is formally known as, and make documents and things like that. Google Slides or PowerPoint allow you to make presentations, so it enables you to work. So with regards to user profiles, each user will have a series of needs, interests, and concerns that need to be addressed when creating an app for them. Now, another word for the interests is something that they want. So it's not necessarily a need, but something that they want. So need is something that is essential. It's necessary. You cannot go on without that need being met in some way. So when we think about humans, one of our needs is food. The other one is water, or drinks of some sort. Without those two, it would be very hard for us to survive. This is slightly different from a want. A want is something that you desire to possess, or something you desire to do. So something you're wishing for. So it might be to drive a sports car. That's something you want to do. It might be that you want to either buy a PlayStation or play on a PlayStation. These are wants. I mean, some people might argue with that point, but you can live without one or both of those things. A concern is something that you might be anxious about or have anxiety about, or something you're worried about. So a parent might be worried about their child, their baby, their newborn, if that is the case. Or they might be worried about their safety, so they want to keep themselves safe from a thief or from their property being stolen. Now, when you think about that in a digital setting, this is an example of a man who's 44 years old. His name's Gary Manilow. And these are his possible interests, possible needs, and possible concerns. So you've got there his potential needs to find a job. He needs to find a job in order to obviously get income. He needs to buy clothes and groceries. So shopping might be a want in some circumstances. For example, if he wants to buy a sports car. But in this example, I'm using shopping as a need because he needs to buy clothes. He needs to buy groceries in order to eat. And he also needs to be able to travel or use public transport or transport of some sort to get to his job. So that's a need. His interests. He's interested in sports. He likes AFL. He's interested in finding out where the latest good place to go and find some food in a restaurant or something can be found. He's interested in the latest news. Now, without those three, he can survive. Possible concern is, again, job security, which is very big at the moment. People are concerned about their jobs and their livelihoods. Safety at home, like the example I used about the person being afraid perhaps of being stolen from. And expenses. How much are things going to cost? Will he have enough money to pay for them? Things like bills and things like that as well. So what people will want is going to change depending on who they are and their circumstances. For example, you've got a female that's 5 years old. Her needs are going to be very different from a male that's 10-year-old, and then his needs are going to be different from a male who's 19-year-old. A female that's 33 years old will not have the same needs and wants as the three people that I've already mentioned. And somebody that's 77 years old and is, in their elderly age will have very different needs to a female that's 5 years old. So what you need to think about for each target audience is who are you creating the app for? Who's going to be the main user for your app? And you might have multiple users for your app. So you might have it being able to be used by teenagers and by 77 years old person. But you need to think about what their needs are and how you might meet that need with the app, and what their desires are, what are their wants, what are their interests, and how can you meet that in their app.